Hi everyone. So for a lot of you, hospitals is more like a building, or we can say a place to go when you are sick or when something is going wrong. But for me, hospital is a place wherein I have seen emergency calls, calls at odd hours, and some emergency decisions which are made. So today's podcast is very, very special for me because I have Dr. Prakash Khitan, who is my father and a senior nephrologist of more than 28 years of practice in Nagpur. So, in today's podcast, we would like to show you a transition on how one generation had built a hospital and the second generation is going to make it grow or to take it to the next level. And what are the changes or what is the scenario in the healthcare industry which has been there in the last few years of healthcare industry. So, welcome Dr. Prakash Khitan.
Hello, Shravan.
Sir, I would like to ask you with the this podcast. I would like to really start with the first question. That is, what was healthcare, or who was Dr. Prakash Khitan before the start of Shravan Hospital and Kidney Institute, and how was your professional years?
Shravan, I started my practice way back in 1998. I started my practice at Avanti Institute of Cardiology, wherein I had worked earlier also during my pre-DM days. So I had acquaintance with that place, and luckily when I came back from Bombay after doing my DM, there was a place where I couldn't start my unit. So I started my dialysis unit and my OPD in 1998 at Avanti Institute of Cardiology, wherein I had two dialysis machines and a OPD, and I could admit my patients at Avanti Institute. When I was working at Avanti Institute, I learned a lot of things regarding how could be the hospital, how to manage certain things, what things you should have if you start your own hospital. And then I decided to build my own hospital. In It took me around 4 years to take that decision and started my constructing my hospital at our own residence at Nandanvan, where there was space available. So the construction started in 2002, and in 2004 we started that hospital. And today it's almost 22 years that we'll be completing that hospital. So from the beginning only, my aim was to have a multi-speciality hospital, catering mainly because in that time, Nandanvan did not had any good multi-speciality hospital. So I thought of having a multi-speciality hospital, and luckily I could get doctors who could join me and uh, work with me at Shravan Hospital. So from the beginning only, I thought ki we should be able to provide good services at our hospital, like nephrological services, then associated urological services, and any emergencies which come across in nephrology and other medical fields. So that's why I started a small ICU, in-house pathology lab, in-house radiology, and in-house operation theater, along with the dialysis unit and multiple consulting chambers.
Now,
So that was my initiation of practice.
okay. So, if I ask you, how was like had you have just mentioned that you had your own OPD at Avanti before starting SHKI. So how was running or making an OPD back in those days, and how was it, or how could you basically gain the trust of the patients back in those days?
See, if you have put up a board in front of the office that you will be available from 10 to 2, then availability is the most important thing. If you are not available at from that in that specified period of time, like 10 to 2, then usually patient do not have trust.
Okay.
So punctuality is what is very important when it comes to OPD. So you have to be punctual uh, so that patient gains trust in you.
So, as you just mentioned, that you had the motivation of starting the first multi-speciality hospital in 2002 in Nandanvan or in the east side of Nagpur that time. What was the most scariest thing you actually would have came across or thought when you had that thought of starting your own practice? And was there any formal concept of hospital management? And if not, how did you do the management of taking care of your patients and building a hospital of your own that day?
That day, no super specialists used to come and start their practice in east part of the Nagpur. Most of the super specialties were available on the west side of the Nagpur, and I was, I think, the one of the first person who started hospital as a super specialist in East Nagpur. So what I thought that most of the patient were coming from out of station. So how does it matter where they go in from the bus stand or the railway station to Dhantoli, Ramdaspet or to Nandanvan? And patient usually used to come in the name of the doctor, not in the name of the hospital. So that made me think that I should start practice in East Nagpur. So I took that challenge of starting the first super speciality hospital in east part of Nagpur. In those days, usually the doctor couples used to be mainly the hospitals used to be owned by doctor couple, and both the couple used to manage the hospitals. Some part usually looked after by the husband doctor, and some part taken care by the wife doctor. So that's how we also did, and with a lot of I had a lot of family support. My father was a very useful and very meticulous person. So he was the main person who looked after the construction of the hospital. While I was doing my practice in west part of the Nagpur, it was he who took over the responsibility of constructing that hospital and making it ready for me.
Okay.
So I had a good family support also.
All right.
But as far as the hospital functioning was concerned, myself and my wife, Dr. Seema, used to look after all the nitty-gritties of dealing with the staff and dealing with all other things.
So you would like to say that that time also you had an added leader support to maybe start your own or make this hospital. Without that actual support, it would have been very difficult to start your own hospital.
Yes, I must confess that yes, I had administrative support both through my father as well as my wife, who took most of the stress out of me for all these problems which used to happen regarding electricity, water supply, and uh, plumbing. All those things. Usually, I had my father's support, and the staff support was given by my wife, Dr. Seema.
As you did mention that you had a lot of support, but eventually, as a doctor or as the main face, you eventually had to wear a lot of hats. Maybe as an admin, as the main doctor of the hospital. So, how was it juggling these many responsibilities? Did it affect your clinical practice in some manner, or maybe do you think it could have been something else if you might have had the actual hospital management support?
Yes, I did had problems in managing all the things. I wanted few things, but that I could not do on my own. Like I wanted to make it from a proprietary firm to a private limited company. That I was not able to do. I wanted to start food services at my hospital to all the patients, but that also I could not do. And a lot of things like managing staff was becoming difficult. Like आज सिस्टर नहीं आई है, आज ये सिस्टर छुट्टी पे चली गई है, देन आज वो डॉक्टर ने छोड़ दिया है. तो that used to be a little of take my precious time, and that time we all used to have चालक मालक concept. जो डॉक्टर मेन डॉक्टर रहता था वही डॉक्टर हॉस्पिटल की सब रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेता था, और उसी के बोलने पे पूरा सब चलता था. बट देन आई we had a group of doctors decided that we should have built one hospital wherein all facilities, all super speciality, there was no such hospital in Nagpur in private setup. Okay. Where all the super specialists were under roof, all the imaging techniques were under one roof. So with that dream, many of our doctors came together, and we started dreaming of making a multi corporate hospital, wherein not sort of corporate hospital exactly, but then a hospital where all the facilities are available under one roof and patient doesn't have to go for any procedure outside. So with that concept, we started building the Kingsway Hospital in 2014.
Okay.
And it took almost 5 years to start that hospital. And therein I came to know the concept of corporate hospital, like, and today then there is a CEO of the hospital, there is a COO hospital, there is a HR manager. All these things, these terminologies were not known to me before that.
Okay.
So it was at the inception of that hospital, I came to know across all these terminologies. And then yes, my dream came true once you finished your studies and joined me at Shravan Hospital and Kidney Institute. And then thereafter I haven't seen back, like whatever I dreamt, like starting converting my proprietary service to private hospital, private limited, and then starting food services, getting many things done at the hospital. That was really looked after by after you joined and you took over that mantle.
So, according to you, I know I'm going a bit back to our in our conversation right now, but according to you, if hospital management would have had a syllabus back in 2004 when you started SHKI, so what do you think it should have maybe taught to the doctors, or do you think it was the doctors who actually have to do all of these hospital management all alone?
Now the concept of management, like initially the hospitals were not built for business, but once the consumer law came in and the doctors were scrutinized and were liable for consumer action, like any patient can go and complain. Thereafter, the hospital is now being looked at as business, and as there is corporatization in most of the uh, cities, metro cities. There are big chain of hospitals. There are big hospitals. So after that, and there is a lot of MBA courses now available, wherein any person who is trained in properly managing a business can go and train himself and look after that business. So once the hospital became a business, it was necessary that it should be looked as a business, not as a uh, like duty of the doctor, but should be managed in a proper way to avoid legal suits and maintain all the records.
So, just as you mentioned, that hospital has turned into a business, and coming from a senior doctor, we have heard a lot of people, and especially the lay person, saying कि डॉक्टर धंधा कर रहा है, हॉस्पिटल एक बिजनेस हो गया है. तो what would you actually comment on it? Is it the doctor's perspective which is wrong, or is it the lay person's perspective which is wrong here? Because as you just mentioned, it is not the doctor's wish to maybe get into all of these legalities, because they are here to serve the community. They did a lot of practice, they did a lot of studies to come to certain level to create or to give a certain care to their community. So what would you like to comment on it?
See, doctors are there to serve the patients only, but they need a good environment to practice.
Right.
So, good environment comes from a good setup, and good setup requires a good infrastructure, a lot of investment, and even after studying for so many years, if you don't have a proper infrastructure, proper setup, your practice will not be as good as it should have been. So, for a good doctor to practice and give his best services, he needs a good infrastructure and a good setup. So, that is what is required. Though it is not a business, the doctor looks after the patient and does his best for the patient. But for doing all this, he needs a good backup service and a good infrastructure.
So eventually, the hospitals have turned into a kind of a model wherein it is looked like a business, but it is what it is. It is necessary to make sure that the business part of the hospital or the managerial part of the hospital is there, so that the doctor can deliver that quality care to the community today.
Yes, if there is a good admin backup, then doctor doesn't have to worry about the admin part. That is because that is looked in after by the admin team and he has to just take care of the patient and treat his patients well, rather than looking after the intricacies of doing all the paperwork and any legalities what are required.
If I would ask you, when you just said that 1998 you started a OPD setup with a small dialysis unit, 2004 you started a small, not a private limited hospital, a hospital with a group of doctors, and today in 2014 you started a dream and you eventually made a hospital in 2019, if I'm not wrong. That was Kingsway Hospital, with a big group of doctors with a proper management in place. How would you like to comment on the transition in the healthcare industry, in the manner of, maybe if we say, management side of the hospital, norms and the legalities which the government generally brings in today's organization, and eventually how did it affect, or how would had it affected a doctor if this transition wouldn't have had been in this pattern, if there is.
See, Shravan, the hospital requires 39 licenses 39 licenses for completing the list of requirements for running the hospital. It can be a fire license, it can be a pollution control board license, it is a air authority license. So for a hospital to be, for a building to be called as hospital, it has to have 39 approvals. And these are very difficult for a small nursing home to get.
Right.
So, yes, the transition is there from small nursing homes, OPD, solo OPD practice. We are now moving into a era where the health is covered by insurance.
Right.
There is a lot of corporatization, like there is a lot of companies who are being associated with big hospitals for looking after their patient. So, and they usually look for such big hospitals. They don't look for a small nursing homes. So, with insurance coming in, with empanelments coming in, the slowly the transition is more and more for bigger hospitals.
So, as you mentioned that after I came into the hospital's managerial side and maybe took over a few things, yes, you mentioned that there were some things you had thought of doing it in your facility, but were not able to do it all alone. What would you say was your first reaction when I joined your hospital as a manager? Were you relieved? Were you worried? And what was your thought on how important is this management for hospitals today?
See, I had no doubt in your management capabilities, and that is how I, even if you remember, that I told you that you should go on the management side.
Right.
So I never had doubt about your managerial skills, and I was sure that you will exceed as definitely hospital management. And after you came, slowly, I kept on keeping my trust and building my faith in you. And now that faith is very strong. And I no more look after the management of my hospital because now it's you and you who look after all the things in the hospital, like from managing staff, managing salaries of the staff, staff training, which I never did like in a proper manner. I did in tits and bits, but staff training as you do and the everything that is required, how the reception staff should behave, how the sisters should talk, what are the duties of the ward boy, and all these things which I think I never looked very deeply now are looked after by you, and I'm very happy that I don't have to manage all these things after you are there. So
So
I'm very happy.
to many the listeners of this podcast, I would like to mention this as Sir just rightly said. A lot of people ask me this question that how did you take this decision of going from clinical side of the management of the healthcare industry to the managerial side of the healthcare industry. So yes, it was my father who actually had that faith in me or who guided me that Shravan, it is for you that you should now go into the managerial side because I have seen the management side of the hospital today and I really think you can do a great job in the management side. So, first of all, thank you, Papa, for that because if you wouldn't have guided me to that way or that path, I always had my eyes on being a doctor, a nephrologist, just like you, because I have always seen how a doctor's practice was, how their lifestyle was. Yes, it was a difficult one in those days, but it was something I had always dreamt of. So, you want to add something to it?
So life is a big lesson. Like you have to learn every day. So life is a big teacher, not a lesson. It's a big teacher. So as and everybody can teach you something.
Right.
Not that if a person is uneducated, you can learn from his manners,
Right.
you can learn from his simplicity, and you can learn from educated person other things, but all persons can give educate the other person in some or other way.
Okay.
Like uh, our staff, which has to be very good, because our responsibility is to hire the staff, but how do they work for you is their skill.
Right.
So, a skilled staff, a dependent staff is equally important in your building your reputation.
Okay.
You don't just build your reputation on yourself, but it is the staff who helps you in building your reputation.
That's very well said. That's very well said. And I could definitely agree to your point today is that a lot of times people would say that that doctor is really great. The way he diagnoses, the way he treats the disease is amazing. But his hospital is not that up to the mark on the doctor's reputation, what we think of today. So, coming from this conversation to our almost end of the podcast, today I have a lot of my friends who are my batchmates, a lot of my seniors, juniors who are doctors and who come from the healthcare background. I mean, they also have parents who are doctors, but today they are being into the clinical side of the healthcare industry. They are coming or joining their hospitals as the next doctor, the next generation of doctors for those institutes. And I have seen that the way the senior doctors used to practice, and even I would say the way you used to practice, and the nephrologists who are coming in today, the way they have a way of practicing is a bit different. So, what would you say that in an institute wherein there is a first generation of doctors and there is this second generation of doctors who's coming in, how difficult is this transitional change that is going to happen? Because the way of management might not be the same.
No,
And
it is not definitely the same.
and how do you think these senior doctors should look into and do something to help the next generation come and grow it?
So I think they, we are from a generation where we listen to our parents, and I think we are the generation who also listen to their children. So we are of that generation that where that we have looked after both our parent side also and our children side also. And like our parents were very strict with us, and so we do have some of their qualities. And as they were very strict to us, we did not uh, imply that strictness with our children, because we wanted them like they should be a little more uh, accommodative, there should be more free, and I think we gave them more liberties than what we got from our parents. So definitely the new generation is different. They have got a different view of practice and getting themselves established. So, as parent, I will like to say to all the senior doctors that you have done your part, but let them do their part. Let accept their ideas, their views, and it's time to change. It's time to change. So, if we want to give them wings, we have to give them freedom also.
Now, to end this conversation, to end this podcast, there is one question we generally like to ask a lot of doctors, and that would be that if you would have had got the free time from your day to day life, for example, if you are spending in around 10 hours every day in running your own hospital today, like I'm not saying it for someone who has already had a proper management, but people who still are not having that proper management in place in their hospitals, or might have a weak way of management in their hospitals. So eventually they end up spending 10 to 12 hours every day in their hospital, managing the patient, managing the staff, managing the healthcare industry, everything, everything, everything. What would you do if you could get maybe a couple of hours free in your everyday?
See, we have got 24 hours in a day, and it is up to you that how do you utilize those 24 hours. Like 7 hours sleep is very essential. So, of the 24 hours, 7 hours should go in sleep. Your body is very important. So, you should keep 1 to 2 hours for your body. You should religiously do some kind of exercise, meditation. At least 1 to 2 hours should be given for your body. And maybe family is also important, so you should reserve some time for your family also. काम तो होते ही रहेगा, काम कभी ख़त्म नहीं होगा, पेशेंट्स कभी ख़त्म नहीं होंगे, but then start delegating responsibility, build a team wherein your absence will not matter too much because you are busy in doing something. So do practice, do good clinical practice, dedicate 8 to 10 hours for your clinical practice, but remaining time should be utilized for your family, for yourself, and have a good sleep.
So, thank you so much for the amazing message you just gave. Yes, it is very important to put time for yourself, for your family, because those are also the priority today. But to end this podcast, would you have or would you like to add any final thoughts for our today's podcast?
Yeah, hospitals do not belong to one generation. They are built for community, and you may pass that hospital to your second generation so that the community can benefit in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So that was Dr. Prakash Khetan, who had just showcased us the importance of management in hospitals today, and why is it important for doctors to maybe let go of some things that might not be necessary for them to manage, as it had the importance before in the last few years in the healthcare industry. Thank you, and thank you so much for listening to our podcast.